What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. We're back. We're in draft season. Our favorite season. Actually, no, it's not. Off season is our good season. I think it's because we just shitpost even more and people like that. But this is our second best season because the Sharks haven't been good. So we got to do something. We are kicking off our draft profile coverage. Our goal to get through, 80% of the first round?
Something like that, 20, 25.
Something like that.
Yeah.
As we get closer to the draft and we hone in where the Sharks are, we'll kind of start to focus more on guys that we haven't covered that are going to be around that area. But for right now, we're doing everybody. So, yeah, small boy season.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, Kyle Demetrius. Back with me, as always, is co-host JD, the Alexander Dag to my Patrick Stefan.
Sure, why not?
Do you even know who those people are?
Nope.
Colossal first overall busts.
Oh, okay.
Just absolutely ruinous.
That's at first. Perfect for us. Actually, I don't think we would ever be first overall picks. We are definitely.
I would. I'm gorgeous.
We're middle of the. I'm a middle of the pack pick. So
I'm going top of the draft and flaming out hard. That's me.
I can see that. So,
all right, who are we talking about first?
We are going to be talking about one Frank Nazar. So the way we do these draft profiles, if you're new to us or haven't, we'll give a little kind of contextual info about this guy. If you're watching on YouTube, we have fancy graphics this year, so that's cool. We'll give a little bit of context about this guy, and then we will bring in an expert to talk about said player. So we're going to start with Frank Nazar, a January birth date.
Why are we doing that?
Plays center or right wing. He's a good old USA boy from Michigan. Is slated to go to University of Michigan next year, where they continually just pump out prospects right now. I think I checked the stats. They had 15 top 5 picks in last year's draft alone. Don't check the math, but it does check out. 15 top 5 picks. But Frank Nazar, he plays for the U.S. National Development Team, USNTDP, QRS, CUP, et cetera, et cetera. He's played 35 games, 16 goals, 26 assists, for a total of 42 points for the under 18 team. He's also played on the junior team, the USHL, where he's played 13 games, got 10 goals, 10 assists for 20 points during that time. So, our boy Frank here is going to be our first pick. And there's only one person that we could bring in to talk about him.
That's very bold of you to say that there's only one person. I'm sure there's many people.
Yes.
Yes, that was a good one. Mm-hmm. Joining us is Tony Ferrari of the Hockey News, Sports Illustrated, and wherever else he can be found. The internet.
The internet. I am the internet.
The gym.
Noted bald king.
Every once in a while, yes. I am the bald king. That means I would be a very late round pick because they're like, how'd this 30-year-old get into the draft?
That's not true. Ryan Getzlaf made a great career.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking in the NHL, it's him or Darnell Nurse that share a hairstyle with me. So I don't have many options.
Do you remember Alex Auld? He's big. He's bald. Baby. He's Alex Auld.
Yeah, Alex Auld, Craig Anderson. Yeah, the goalie contingent's strong with us.
There's a good lineage of bald kings. Mark Messier, famously, even though he's a douchebag.
Yep.
He's good at hockey. So
yeah, he's good at hockey. We'll talk about that.
Vancouver Canucks legend. Anyway, Frank Nazar. We when we reach out to all of the scouts and stuff like that, we say, "Hey, who do you want to do? Who do you have strong feelings about?" And you came off the first person out of your mouth was Frank Nazar. So give us the Coles notes before we dive in.
Well, this has been my guy this year. Since the start of the year, I was hesitant to really commit to a guy. I kind of do it every year. Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider, Fabian Lysell last year, who I talked to you guys about. And Frank Nazar was the guy this year. He just plays such a high-octane game. He's so fast, so shifty. Just loves to play at an incredibly high pace, but he has the ability to kind of ratchet it down if a team adjusts to him. So for my money, he's probably the most exciting player at the top of this draft. I think he's got all the skill. The tools are ridiculous. And he's only just realizing some of them, which is the really intriguing thing for me. I've said it all year that him and Cooley have kind of been 1A, 1B off that NTDP team. But the more and more I watch them, the more and more I go, man, I think I might take the swing on Nazar because of the upside, because of this ridiculous tool set that he has. And Cooley's not a bad player by any means. He's a really complete player, really projectable. But Nazar's that guy that you're like, this guy could be one of the top scorers on my team. This guy could be a really high octane first line forward, whether he plays center or the wing. Like, there's a lot to like in Nazar's game.
Interesting you talked about Cooley over Nazar, because I think Cooley is, I believe he just got ranked first over Shane Wright by somebody on TSN. And Frank
Peters, right? Chris Peters.
Yes. Sorry, for ESPN. Frank Nazar is usually seen as a middle of the first round. What's the deal if you want him over Cooley?
Well, I think you're going to start seeing him kind of moving up a little bit. And you've already started to see it a little bit. I know Elite Prospects consensus ranking started moving up recently, and he's inside the top 10 now. I think he's right around 7, if I'm not mistaken. And that's on a lot of different lists. And you look at some of the more private lists and the more singular lists where it's not a full website or a full outlet. And people like Cam Robinson, myself, and even others that are in the prospect game, he's moving right up into the top 5. Like, he's challenging Cooley for that top spot on the NTDP team. And I think it's just because you look at them both and you're like, all right, both of them are going to play in the NHL. I don't think anyone has any doubt about that. And you go, man, Cooley could be this really solid second line center. Maybe he plays on the wing on the first line or something. He does some stuff, but he's, you're going to get a middle six center out of him at least. With Nazar, you're like, you're going to get that, but there's also this crazy upside where if you give him time at Michigan next year, where he's going to have the offensive talent to play with yet again. So you give him that time to kind of realize some of these tools that he has, and he could possibly be the best player in this draft period, let alone just from the NTDP.
What is this? You keep talking about the skill set and tools. What about those that makes him so special that you think that could be this potentially best guy in the draft, especially with, Shane Wright, who's supposed to be the number 1 pick?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of upside. It really is. And the tool set that I'm talking about is the speed, the skill, the ability to kind of not only puck handle at low speeds or through transition, but as he's picking up speed, he can puck handle in space, up against the wall. He's crazy at going to the middle of the ice. And it's impressive to see a guy that's his size, because he's not huge. He's 5'10", 170, if I'm not mistaken. And he's going to grow a little bit. He's, like you said, a January birthday, good old middle of the age group for this class. I know how important that is to you.
Oh God, it's the stupidest thing.
I'll be honest with you. A little side note: the only time it matters to me is October and August. Like, if you're really young for the draft or really old for the draft, those are really the only 2 things that matter. Exactly. I don't care about a January versus February birthday.
Isn't Wayne Gretzky's birthday in January?
Probably. There's a lot of really good players born in January.
Just Phil Esposito.
Yeah.
Terrible at hockey. Just imagine how good they would have been if they were born in August.
What a bunch of bums.
Wayne Gretzky is born January 26th. Yeah, so there we go.
Well, happy belated birthday to him.
Oh, the great one. Do you think he's drunk right now?
Probably. But no, with Frank Nazar, I think the fact that he's able to do so much at such a high speed is going to really kind of translate to the NHL level really well. I think it's one of those players where you go, man, like, a lot of players have that high end skill. They can dangle, they can deke, they can do some fancy stuff in space, but they are not able to do it at the high level. Like, I think you look to a guy like Kent Johnson last year, where he has all this unreal skill. He's basically a video game on ice, but he can't do it at a high speed. He's starting to learn to do that a little bit more this year as he's developing, but that wasn't a tool he had when he was 17. With Nazar, he has that tool at 17. And he has all of these raw elements to his game. His shot's unreal. He has got this really creative playmaking ability. He's got maybe the best skates in the class, in my opinion. And you go, man, if he can start piecing all of this together at once, there's an unreal player here. But the fact of the matter is, he's a 17-year-old who's kind of still figuring out the game of hockey at the end of the day. And playing with this NTDP team, he's got a great opportunity. So I think he's a guy that, if you're looking at upside, he's a swing I'd take in the top 5 for sure.
Speaking of upside, there's no downside to eating Built Bars. Our friends at Built Bar, it's a new year, new me. Frank Nazar might be on the Built Bars. You never know. He's not the biggest guy. He's only 5'10", 175. He's got to put on weight somehow. Hit the gym. So instead of grabbing one of those gross, nasty protein bars that we've all had that taste like chalk or chemicals, and you're like, well, this doesn't taste like peanut butter at all, grab a Built Bar, because they're covered in 100% real chocolate, so they taste good. Plus, they have a ton of flavors. You can find your favorite: coconut brownie, peanut butter, double chocolate if you're a psychopath. JD's favorite, cherry barcia. Maybe they have new flavors. If you go to built.com, you can always check out their limited time offers. Easter's coming up. We got to see if there's a Peeps flavor, at least a mini egg flavor. They've got to do it. They did something for Thanksgiving. They did something for the holidays in December. They got to do something for Easter, and I'm saying Peeps. And the good thing about grabbing a Built Bar instead of a regular chocolate bar is that Built Bars usually only contain about 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that with the chocolate bar, which has about 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. That was good. You didn't break as hard as Will Scouch did. He didn't realize what was going on. It was just like, what is happening?
As soon as you said built, I was like, this is it. This is the moment. I knew it.
Oh.
But I do have one bone to pick. What are you talking about, Psychopaths with the double chocolate? That's the flavor to go.
Oh, no, I hate double chocolate.
Oh,
Noted psychopath.
yeah,
That's
it's the worst. It's the worst. You got to get the peanut butter mixture in there.
And
My
peanut butter's
protein
delightful.
shake, my protein powder is actually vanilla right now. If you want to see what kind of weirdo I am.
That's rough. Don't
anyway.
do vanilla protein powder.
I like it. The best shake flavor is strawberry followed by vanilla, then chocolate. So
Ooh,
that's where I'm at in my head.
I think I'm done with the podcast now, guys.
Yeah.
It was fun. Yeah,
Frank Nazar, our only profile.
Yeah.
That's it.
He's gonna tell all of his friends, "Don't go on Lock on Sharks. Those guys are psychopaths." So our whole goal this offseason is to find William Eklund a friend, right? That's the thing. It's how would Nazar pair well with Eklund, or do you think they two similar, or how do you think they would fit together?
I'd love to see it personally because of how smart Eklund is and how much he's able to execute just about any play he wants to do on the ice. You kind of see something and he's able to execute it. And with Nazar, the way I've kind of described him this year is controlled chaos. And he's creative. He's able to kind of you watch him on the ice, and if you just see a shift or two, you're like, this guy is just all over the place, like attacking puck carriers in the offensive zone, forechecking. But he's not a guy that's going to get in there and like smash up against the boards. He's going to get in there and be annoying as hell, get under your stick, leverage body position, fight you for the puck and take it away, and then go make a skilled play. So I think a guy like that on the line with William Eklund, who's so smart and so like just intelligent in every aspect of the game, you add the dynamic skill of Nazar to that. And I mean, who do you need on that line really other than those two? I think you put a guy that's maybe a little bit bigger to be a little bit of a physical presence, but overall, I think Nazar and Eklund could be an insane pair. It'd be a ton of fun to watch.
All right. So what's the downside here?
Yeah,
everything's been good with Nazar. He sounds awesome, but there's got to be a downside.
The downside is there's chaos, and I think there is an element of, is he going to be is he going to be a third line guy that's just able to kind of produce offensively and be that energy, be that kind of guy that goes into the forecheck and creates chaos and isn't able to finish at the NHL level? Or is he going to be a guy that can kind of bring some of the finish he's shown at the junior level to the next level? And everything I've seen, I see no indication that he won't be able to. So I think there's a risk because he hasn't quite put all of the tools together at once as consistently as you like to see, but all the tools are there. Everything you want out of a top line forward is there, whether he's playing center or the wing. So for me, I'm more than willing to take that bet, but I think there is the realistic chance that he could be just a really high end third line player. And at the end of the day, if you're drafting at 10, 11, 12 and Nazar's sitting there and that's what you get out of him, I don't think you're really complaining either way.
His profile and he's got all the tools, but maybe doesn't have a toolbox for them. Does this kind of player work out more often than not? Or like, how does his profile shape up to like hitting his potential?
With Nazar, I'd say the kind of profile that he has, I think it does work out more often than not, because it's not like he's lacking skating or he's not lacking the intelligence necessarily on where to be positionally in the offensive zone.
Just lacking the instructions.
Yeah, I almost feel like it's like a really high-end player that hasn't quite had the coaching. And you've seen him have the coaching the last couple of years, and he's really, really improved throughout the USNTDP program. So I think you kind of watch him the rest of the year, and you're going to continue seeing him kind of expand his game defensively, expand his game in transition. He's played both wing and the center this year. He's been bounced around the lineup a little bit because every line he goes on seems to produce. So it's kind of a let this kid get comfortable in a position and pull everything together, because every time he gets switched to a new line, he has a kind of a different role. So it's really fun to watch this kid because he's able to adapt. But like I said, he's the transition guy on one line. He's a scorer on another line. He's a playmaker on another line. And wherever he is, he's able to kind of fill that role. So I love the kid.
So he's going to Michigan next year. With Michigan, who's produced a ton of top end guys recently. Like, what do you think it will be his role on Michigan next year?
I think a lot of that depends on who leaves,
Mhm.
because I think you got guys like Bordeleau, who you guys know quite well.
He's leaving.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So Bordelow's probably a guy that leaves. Ken Johnson, more than likely not, he leaves. But there's a chance, I think, that Columbus is going to be patient with him. So maybe he stays. And you have guys throughout that lineup that could easily go. Brendan Brisson is another one. And you're like, if they leave, that opens up that top 6 opportunity. That opens up that top power play opportunity that Nazar could kind of work his way into. But then again, they also have a ton of young players on that team. They have guys like Adam Fantilli also going there, who's going to be a ridiculous talent for next year's draft. There's a lot of talent on that Michigan team. So I think it's going to be just like it was for Bordeleau in his freshman year, kind of a figuring out process the first little bit to see where he's going to sit. And then once he figures out a role, much like Bordeleau did pretty early on in his Michigan tenure, I think you're just going to see him excel offensively and do his thing.
Where would Nazar, if they pick Nazar, where would he slot into San Jose's prospect pool rank?
Oh, just off the top of my head, I'd say
you got
Eklund. Obviously,
Eklund, Bordeleau, Gushin, Robbins, Weissblatt, Coe. We'll leave Gaudreau out of it.
I'm gonna say probably right behind Eklund. You could probably debate some of the other guys, I guess. But honestly, with the upside that Nazar has, he's probably, I'd say, better than Bordeleau, in my opinion. A guy like Dino Gushin's got a ton of upside. He's a fun player, but I don't think he quite has the dynamism that Nazar has. And then you look throughout the rest of the lineup and everything, and you're like, no one else really kind of stacks up. Like Ozzy Weissblatt, I don't think is in the discussion. So I think you look at him and you go, Eklund's the guy that's clearly ahead of him, and then he's right there with Bordeleau, and in my opinion, he's probably ahead of him.
If Nazar hits his ceiling, what type of player would he be in the NHL? Kind of like a 60, 70 point guy a year? Like kind of where would you kind of figure?
I think if Nazar truly hits his ceiling where he is, I think he could be a point a game guy. I think he realistically hit 80 in a couple seasons during his career. And at the end of the day, I think his offensive production is going to kind of depend on who he plays with, like many players. But if you get a guy like him and Eklund are going up for the next 5-10 years, that's a lethal combo. And I think he could easily put up a couple point per game seasons.
Kyle.
Yeah.
If you wanted to bet on Nazar's point totals, where could you go?
A gaming outfit on the internet?
Specifically, betonline.net. BetOnline has got you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march to the playoffs, right to the big game in a week. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just football. BetOnline's got you covered. Up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, right along with the real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available for the 2022 season. BetOnline, where the game starts.
So you're an NHL GM now. Congratulations.
Sweet.
Can you hire us too?
Yes.
I'd hire you guys. Why not? Montreal does what they want, so who cares who I hire?
San Jose, if you're listening, we know you are. We are willing to sell out and do this podcast pro propaganda for the Sharks.
24/7. Yes.
100% willing to sell out. We can be bought. Just give us money. Okay, exactly. you're a GM now. Yeah, who cares? It's just hockey. You're the GM of a team. What range are you thinking of taking? Like, you got to put yourself in the mindset of the NHL GM. So, like, Tony Ferrari loves Nazar, would take him too. NHL GM, realistically, where are we talking going with his? He's not the biggest guy. He is a winger. He scores a lot of points. What would an NHL GM be thinking?
I think right now an NHL GM's looking at Nazar and they go, okay, a lot of them love Cooley because of how projectable and how safe he is of a pick. So I think he's probably ahead of him. Shane Wright, obviously. And then I think he's in that range where he's probably not going to go in the top 4, but I think anywhere between 5 and 12 would be a really good spot for him. And the later you get into that range, like, I think there is a chance that he's sitting there at 13 or 14 even, because we've seen other talents that are ridiculously skilled and put up a ton of points with the NTDP, like Cole Caulfield or Matthew Boldy, go a little bit outside the top 10. So I think there's a chance, but for me, as an NHL GM, even, I think anywhere between 5 and 10 is probably where I'd really sit there, start banging the table for him.
So if we're NHL GMs here, we're thinking Wright and Cooley are probably gonna be the top two guys, and then Savoy, Kemmel. But like, if it comes down to Nazar and Uri Slavkovsky, do you think NHL GMs are gonna be like, wow, this guy's gigantic?
And that's just it, right? Like, I think there's a chance that Savoy falls as well because of his size. I think we're starting to see Kemmel fall down the board a little bit too because his hot start hasn't really happened after the new year.
I mean,
So
Kemmel should fall because he's just not as good as Brad Lambert. So
I agree. But no, I think the guys that you're looking at in the top 5 right now, Logan Cooley, Shane Wright, I think Simon Nemec is getting in there, David Juracek, Yuri Slavkovsky, Joachim Kemmel. Someone's still going to go look at how fast he scored in the Liga at the start of the year. Some team's going to look at Brad Lambert. I think all those guys are kind of in that range of could possibly go ahead of him. And then Nazar is a guy that I think is in anywhere after 5, realistically, with an NHL GM, even though I'd probably take him ahead of a few of the guys that NHL GMs will take ahead of him.
So, you kind of this 5 to 10 spot for Nazar. What do you think he needs to kind of keep working on to kind of maybe solidify himself as one of these top guys?
I think he needs to continue getting better defensively. That's been a big focus for him when I talked to him earlier this year, is improving his game defensively, knowing where to be at that end of the ice. And I think he's done a really good job. And effort's never really been the issue for him. He's got a pretty high motor. So I think really the big deal is positioning. But I think the biggest thing for him is just get stronger. Much like any smaller player like that, sometimes you get bumped off the puck when playing these college teams. But he does a really good job at battling through that. I think just getting stronger, being a little bit more solid of a base will help him because he's quick as all hell. So you don't want him to lose that because that's a big asset for him. But overall strength and just, again, positional defensively, I think that's always something that young forwards need to work on.
You mentioned his shot. So you said you think it can be an NHL caliber shot. What about his shot do you think is NHL caliber? Is he just like a lethal sniper? Is it heavy? What's his shot like?
Well, it's not the heaviest shot. I'll be completely honest about that. But he shoots from really high danger areas. He shoots from that front of the net area. He dives into the slot all the time. That's one of the biggest factors of his game that I personally love, is that he cuts into the middle all the time. But the thing is, he's got such a quick release and he pinpoint accuracy. It's finding corners all the time. So I think he's a guy that kind of akin to a Mitch Marner, where you don't expect him to score 30, but maybe he touches it once or twice in his career. But realistically, anywhere between 20 and 25 goals is probably what you expect. And then just being a playmaker the rest of the time.
If you were watching YouTube, I had technical difficulties. My power just went out, which was awesome. Yeah. So should we wrap this baby up?
Let's wrap. Yep.
All right, Tony. We're back.
Our
with
blood questions.
Our blood questions. We are taking actual blood and making you write this in your blood. First question. Where does Frank Nazar go? What number?
8.
8. So that
8.
Right now, that would be like the Blue Jackets or the Islanders, somewhere in there.
Well, it won't be one of those teams because those teams don't pick good players.
The Blue Jackets had a good choice
The
last year.
Blue Jackets did. The Blue Jackets have been on fire, I will say. Lately, the Blue Jackets
but they could have had Eklund. So
but, yeah, they don't go for the tiny skilled guy outside of Kent Johnson. They'll go for a guy like Cole Sillinger or that frame of player.
Igor Chinnikov.
Oh, 24. Hell yeah, baby.
He's actually turning out to be quite nice.
I said it when he was drafted. I'm like, he'll be a serviceable guy. He's not going to be what they expected, I don't think. He's not going to be this 30, 40 goal scorer, but like, he'll be a guy that puts up 15 and 15 and be a solid third liner. I don't know.
I love that draft because we had Igor Chinnikov and Shakir Mukhmadalin. And Shakir, I just don't think has it. That's going to be not. They imagine being the Devils and having Shakir and Kevin Ball and just being like, well, we have nothing.
Well, we have 2 huge dudes who have stuff.
Yeah,
man.
Thank you, Taylor Hall, for your service.
One of my favorite things, and he got banned or he got kicked off Twitter for it, and he had to create a new account. But Dylan Griffin used to just post, "Oh, look at first round pick by the New Jersey Devils, Shakir Mukhmadalin go," and it would just be like him throwing a bomb up the ice for an icing, or like just getting the puck stripped off his stick. Like, it was my favorite thing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's somebody that I didn't reach out to probably because his account got nuked. I'll have to find him in the new way. All right, last question. Looking back 5 years from now, it's 2027. Who is the best player from this draft?
Brad Lambert.
Yes. You can tell which player we want.
Yes.
Yeah. No, honestly, I think Shane Wright is going to be a really, really good player. I think Brad Lambert is kind of similar to the way I'm describing Frank Nazar. He's got all this upside and all the tools that you see from a player that you would love on your team, but there's issues and he needs to put it together still. So it's a little bit of a bold choice to say Brad Lambert. I was going to say Frank Nazar just because I do love him so much, but in reality, I think
You can
Brad
do that
Lambert,
next time.
yeah, I'll do it next time. No, but Brad Lambert, I think, is going to be the guy that I'll go with just because of the upside. And I do have a ton of faith in the way he plays the game.
Perfect. Tony, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at the Tony Ferrari. All my work's on the Hockey News. Check out the Game Tape with Tony videos. They're also on YouTube, so you can go to the Hockey News YouTube page and find them there, where I interview players and then we break down tape together. And I did do one with Frank Nazar, so I'm sure you'd love checking that out.
There we go. We'll link to it somehow. JD can do that.
I will.
He does all the work.
Yes.
If you want to follow us, you can do that at Locked On Sharks on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. You guys know how to get at us. We will interact with you. Don't worry. We have nothing else to do with our accounts. JD puts up all our work on all three, so you can get us there. Email lockedonsharks@gmail.com. If you haven't emailed us, thank you for your service, everybody. YouTube, you can watch us. If that's your thing and you like doing that, you can do that.
Three white guys just talking hockey.
Nothing
You want to
better.
watch three white guys on the internet? Locked On Sharks.
Oh, is this a podcast? Does that mean there are three white guys?
Is it about sports, insurrection, or
Let's stay away from that second one because Canada's got truckers.
But
doing
the
it here.
SEO.
Freedom Convoy, trucker, anti-vax? Actually,
guys.
I'm recovering from my booster, so please go get your vaccine. If you would like to listen to us, you are already listening to us, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, wherever you get your things from. JD's at My Fry Hole. I'm at Kyle Demetrius. Tony is at the Tony Ferrari, like the car. Thanks, Tony.
Anytime, boys.